the way in which we formulate what great is based upon our experiences. And if you want to evolve someone's standard of what great is, then they have to be exposed and they have to experience what that next level standard is.
I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of Crisp, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. Crisp started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, Head of Coaching Strategy at Crisp, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on why hard work means nothing without real results and how to cut the excuses, how to call out entitlement and hold your team accountable when effort isn't enough, and how to spot when someone's all talk and no action and what to do about it.
When you shine a light on the charlatan and one of these passengers, if there's really nothing there, if there's nothing that they've been doing and then you just see they've been bullshitting you this whole time, they will transform on you and you're gonna see this Dr. Jekyll Hyde type situation where you are the problem.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. Here we are, Michael, another AMMA.
And we're back for another one. Is someone still listening?
Someone, maybe 1, 2 people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, I'm excited. This is almost the end of the year. You have to ask yourself, was it a new year, new you? Did 2024 bring all that you thought it would? The highs, the lows. From my perspective, I think it's interesting to reflect on the year itself. I do this every single year. I know we always sit down, not just with the leadership team, but even when we're doing personal goals and reflecting on the year. And it's just so interesting that how many of these things could you even have predicted? Like you had absolutely no idea. You had absolutely no idea what was going to happen this year. I mean, maybe some things you could have predicted, but how many things blindsided you? How many things did you not expect? How many things really tested you, surprised you? And the reality of it is, and that's really kind of the lesson there too, is that 2025 is going to have all sorts of things that you don't expect either. And you can make a great plan. And it's important to obviously have goals and things that you commit to. Absolutely, right? You shouldn't just be flying by the seat of your pants. But it's also recognizing that really the greatest skill is your ability to adapt to whatever comes your way. There's going to be things that surprise you. The plan seems perfect. When you're putting it together, you start executing on it, and 5 minutes in, it's like something goes wrong, and then another thing, and then another thing, and then another thing. You're not alone, right? It's not that you're unlucky. This happens to everyone. This is why when you meet a lot of really great entrepreneurs and leaders, you just build this camaraderie right away because you know that they've been to war and back, and you've been to war and back, and you just unite on the fact that you both have done difficult things and you've been through challenging things. And typically, the more successful somebody is, the more adversity that they've had to overcome. To me, that's the important thing to take stock of. But it's also looking back on the year and saying, okay, well, what are the commitments that I made that perhaps I didn't follow through on? What was it that I set out to do that didn't get done? What can I do different? Usually, I know a lot of people set like New Year's resolutions, like next year's going to be their year, right? They're going to get in shape. They're going to be healthy. Their firm is going to have the best year ever. They're going to make a ton of money. They're going to take a ton of trips. And like, they're going to be father of the year and, wife of the year, mom of the year, sister of the year, brother of the year, cousin of the year, whatever. Instead of trying to spread yourself thin in like 10 different directions, and this is why I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions. I don't think you should have to wait until the new year to decide, to basically start doing something. I mean, what's to stop you from start and do something today?
Right.
Or even tomorrow morning, right? Or maybe on Monday.
Yeah.
Or whatever that might be. Like, why wait until the new year? In addition to that, instead of setting maybe 10 different things, how about one thing?
Yeah.
Like, I remember years back, I wanted to improve my sleep. And I said, okay, well, I just want to go to bed earlier. That's it. That was it. It wasn't like, okay, I want to drink a gallon of water a day. I want to lose X amount of pounds and I want to learn all these different skills. It was just, if I'm going to do one thing in the upcoming year, I'm just going to go to bed earlier, right? I just want to improve my sleep. And if you start to stack these things year over year over year, it obviously starts to compound. So focus is a powerful thing. Reflection is a powerful thing. Intention and commitment are powerful things. And the AMMA is a powerful thing.
Yes, it is.
That's where we are right now. You guys submit your questions You text us at 404-531-7691. We actually been getting some really great messages, really great questions. Maybe we'll see some on the podcast today. But you guys submit the questions, and then we answer them on this podcast. The other episodes that we do are the traditional interview style podcast. We've got some great guests coming up on the next season. And in addition to that, we've got the encore editions that we bring back some of the most popular episodes. So Jessica, I'm excited. What do we got this week?
All right, here we go with question number 1. Michael, last week I pulled an all-nighter to finish a big initiative for the firm. I busted my ass on it, but I didn't get the response I wanted, and now I'm frustrated. What should I do?
Shut the firm down. That's it.
End of story.
Shut the firm down, lay everybody off, give up on your dreams, give up on your goals. I mean, look, you pulled an all-nighter and you didn't get the result you wanted. That's got to be enough, right? I mean, just end it all and just end the firm and, maybe go apply, work at another firm, and that's it for you, right? I mean, you gave it a good effort. It sounds like, this entrepreneurship thing may not be for you, and I guess we'll leave it there. Or, alternatively, you realize that, okay, sometimes you put forth a lot of effort and you don't get the results that you're hoping for. In fact, a lot of times that happens. It's interesting, like sometimes people feel entitled to a certain outcome, but the reality of it is that different people put forth different levels of effort. Even when people do put forth different levels of effort, there's different actions and decisions that are made. You can have, 2 people, let's say, putting in 70 hours a week, but they're spending their time differently. Right? One might be more efficient and more productive. One might not be. We all have the same number of days in a year and hours in a day. And what's the saying? Like the same hours in a day as Beyonce. Any leader that you look up to and admire, like even Elon Musk, you have the same number of hours in a day as Elon. People have different outcomes. And in between all that, if you kind of like zoom in, it is a series of different decisions that are being made and different actions as a result of those decisions. So I would just look at it and say, all right, well, you pulled an all-nighter, good. I mean, sometimes that comes with the territory, especially when, you're in a high growth business, or especially if you're starting out, or even just if you want to maximize the focus and maximize the effort. So you're trying to maximize the number of hours. Some people say, oh, it's like, you don't have to do that. It's not all about working hard. The people that say that stuff, by the way, people that say, oh, it's, you're like, work smart, not hard. Those people don't work hard or smart. Okay, they're just trying to make an excuse to make themselves feel better about the fact that they are not working hard. So they start judging somebody who is. But you can work hard and work smart. I don't know that I've ever seen any law firm, any business really achieve any meaningful growth or any meaningful scale on a 9-to-5. Just never seen it happen. If someone's listening and they're like, that's not true. Okay, text us at 404-531-7691. Tell me the results. And they'll say, oh, yeah, but we grew our firm by 10%. And I was like, okay, what 10% of what? They're like, well, we were at 300,000 and now we're at 330. And we did it from 9 to 5. Okay, why don't you ask the firm that's at 50 million or 80 million how they were doing it on their way to growing that? I think it's just recognizing that you're not entitled to any sort of result. You can put forth the energy and effort. You could do 1 all-nighter, 2 all-nighters, 3 all-nighters, 10 all-nighters, 20 all-nighters. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the outcomes that you want. You still have to do the right things. What's the question?
So getting the response I wanted. So it may even be maybe not the result, but also there may be the recognition with that as well. But also no one is coming to save you. And I think if you think about owners, who else is going to do it? Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You worked hard. Good job. The only thing that matters in this life is the result. Nobody cares about how hard you worked. You want to wear it like a badge of honor, like you stayed up all night. Amazing. We'll clap for you. But honestly, and if people are being truly, truly honest with you, people who love you and actually want to help you, it's all about the result. And it doesn't matter if you achieve the result in 2 hours or 200 hours. It is, what did you ultimately accomplish? They say, oh, got to put in a ton of effort. That's wonderful. But we don't know necessarily what you were doing with said effort. You were just applying hours. It doesn't mean that they were spent correctly. It doesn't mean necessarily they were done productively. I mean, I've seen people stay up late pulling all-nighters and they're watching YouTube videos and they're screwing around on the internet. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that they're sitting there doing things intentionally. I've also seen people do things in very inefficient ways that you look at it and say, oh, wow, if you used AI, you could probably do that in 1/10 of the time. They didn't know. Hard work is a prerequisite of any sort of success, but just because you worked hard doesn't mean you're entitled to any result.
Correct. Yes. Agreed. All right. Question number 2. I've got a team that puts in a ton of effort, but just is not getting the results again. So, when I've tried to give them feedback, their response just reeks of entitlement. They basically said I was being ungrateful for all of their hard work. Now we're both frustrated. What would you say to them?
Well, this is a mess all around.
Yeah.
On the one hand, what it sounds like is that your team believes that they're doing you a favor.
Yes.
And on the other hand, it sounds like you're frustrated by the lack of results. To me, this is just misalignment all around.
And communication.
And communication. I mean, I think first and foremost, if your team's not giving you the results that you want, are they clear on the results that you want? In their view, they're working hard, and maybe that's the currency at your firm, just hard work. And they equate hard work with value. But perhaps you see value differently. Maybe you live in the results economy to where you don't prioritize effort and just hours, and you're prioritizing results. Either way, you have to align on that. Because if someone is just applying a lot of effort, maybe they come from a world where they're like, okay, if I work 8, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, like that's good. I get to keep my job. That's how I get promoted. You are a small business owner that understands that that is completely irrelevant, because the way that we actually pay our bills and make payroll and actually grow an organization ties to creating value in the marketplace, and then obviously being compensated for that value in some way, right? Whether it's through serving your clients, but like somehow there needs to be some exchange of money in order for the practice to grow. Right? Like you put out a service, somebody pays for said service, you get enough people to pay for said service, and then obviously that then turns into revenue. This equation still has to work from the standpoint of you have overheads, both in terms of like infrastructure and people and technology and so on. And the goal of business is to ultimately make more money than you spend. So this equation breaks down if you are spending more money and you are losing money, because you're like, well, why would I do that? That's like a terrible return on investment. You're applying a ton of time and energy and taking a ton of risk and investing a ton of resources. And on top of that, you're losing money. I mean, you would have been better off investing money in the stock market and putting it in like treasury bonds, or just literally doing anything else. You'd be better off driving Uber.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you have to explain that to your team, because they won't care.
No.
It doesn't matter. And nor really should they care. But I do think that if you want to unscrew the situation, first and foremost, important to align on value both ways, right? Because it sounds like two sides are frustrated. Maybe you're resenting your team, and that's never really a good place to be in. From their standpoint, they think they're doing a good job. So it's not coming in and saying, hey, you guys aren't doing a good job. Perhaps it's coming in and saying, you know what, I want to apologize. Perhaps I have not made it clear in terms of what is valuable to me and what the standards are. Maybe there needs to be metrics that are being set. Maybe there needs to be clarity around how to do the work. Let's say you do have standards on results and they're not getting results, but then they're frustrated and they're coming to you saying we're doing the best that we can, which is what this also could be. Then perhaps there's not clarity on how to be successful in doing what they're doing. Like maybe there's not a process. Maybe there's an already process around, like, and again, I don't know exactly what these specific team members are doing. Maybe it's intake, maybe it's case managers, maybe it's somebody on the marketing team, maybe it's lawyers. I mean, again, who knows? But is there a process by which work gets done within the firm for that specific role that these people are in? If there's not, then if everyone's kind of coming up with their own way of doing things, then obviously there's going to be variability and frustration. So I think it's on you as the leader to actually put that in place of saying, okay, here's how we can be successful. This is how we answer the phones. This is the script that we use. This is how we respond. This is how we answer things into our case management platform. This is how we move cases forward. This is how we update our clients, like providing that type of clarity. And then you set the expectation that somebody follows that process. And if they're following that process and they're still not successful, well, it's your fault. The process isn't right. But if they're not following that process, then it's on them. So I think that's number one, just realizing that all things fall on leadership and it's your problem to solve. It's not their problem. I mean, they're there and they're working, but really, if you want to shift to a more results-driven culture, there has to be a process by which things get done. There have to be clearly defined standards. There has to be alignment on what is valuable to the organization and to the business. And then obviously having metrics and KPIs to evaluate that by. There's a lot of communication and clarity and alignment that needs to take place, but just recognize that it's your fault.
Yeah. I always say if you don't tell people what great looks like, they will form their own definition of what great looks like.
Oh, absolutely. If you grow up in a rural town and you say, hey, look, this is the best steak I've ever had. There's a little like steakhouse where it's very, very mediocre. And then you meet someone who's been eating at like, I don't know, some of the top steakhouses in the country.
Yeah.
These two have different perceptions of what great looks like.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Or you go to like an Italian restaurant and you're like, look, I love Olive Garden. I grew up on Olive Garden.
Yeah.
And somebody who is like grown up eating like true, authentic Italian food is going to look at you like you got horns on your head. Like you have no idea what is great. The way in which we formulate what great is based upon our experiences.
Yep.
And if you want to evolve someone's standard of what great is, then they have to be exposed and they have to experience what that next level standard is.
Yep. Exactly. All right. To round us out today with question number 3, Michael, I recently hired a director of operations for our firm with a strong resume, and everyone was excited about bringing him on. It's been a few months now, and I'm starting to get concerned about the lack of progress. How do I determine if he's the right fit or just talking a good game?
Oh,
How much time do we have for this one?
Yes, this is fairly common.
Yes.
You hire somebody, you're excited about them, and they come in with an amazing resume. Chances are you pay a pretty penny for them.
Yes.
And you have expectations, and they tell you, look, I'm going to solve all of your problems. This practice is going to the moon. You get excited. You're like, okay, let's do this. The minute they accept that offer, like you're having a great day. You go to bed, you sleep beautifully. And when they start, you're so excited. You're just so thrilled to have this person be a part of your firm because now you know you're going to take on the world and you're going to defeat everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
They're coming to save you.
And it starts off pretty good because you're like, okay, they're great. It's good to be around, just really smart, competent people. Then, a few weeks go by and perhaps a few months go by and you start to get a little concerned. You're like, okay, well, I thought we were going to take over the world. Like, why hasn't anything happened yet? Now, in all fairness, this could go two ways, right? Now, the first thing is let's say you have what we would call a passenger in the organization, meaning that you have somebody that came from, let's say a much larger organization where on their resume it appears they achieved a lot of success, but when they come into your organization, they've done a very good job of blending in with the furniture. Like they're there for the meetings and they act like they're doing a lot of work, but you're always kind of like curious as to like what impact are they actually driving? Like they're around every day, they show up every day, but I'm paying a pretty penny, and are they actually driving value for the firm? And they'll tell you things like, hey, this thing is in motion, or I'm working on this. And they'll make it sound like these people are masters of sounding productive. They'll tell you, oh yeah, it's in motion. Or yeah, we put the pieces in place, or we're making a lot of progress on this. And one of the best things you can do is to shine a light on this as early as possible. So the fact that you waited 3 months, I've been there a lot. We've both been there. That in itself is a concern. Now we look at things, no matter who we hire, we want to see some sort of impact in month 1.
Yes.
Right? Yes, you're going to get training and onboarding and so on, but like we got to see something in month 1. I want to test you in month 1. We talked about this on previous AMAs. Like you don't want to wait 90 or 100 days to basically find out what you got.
Right.
One of the things you can do to really shine a light on these individuals is the thing that if they're the wrong person that they hate, this is the kryptonite. Okay? Like literally, this is like kryptonite for them. And that is to assign a KPI, like a key performance indicator, or a metric to them that they have to move the needle on. This could be anything, right? Depending on the role, like let's say in this case, like a director of operations. It could be, hey, I want you to like improve our intake conversion rate by 5% over the next quarter, 10% over the next quarter, or our client feedback and the number of like referrals that we're receiving by X%. There's different roles, right? Sometimes to like moving the profitability metric or something around just team member output and productivity. We talk about like hundreds and hundreds of different KPIs.
Very objective.
It's got to be an objective metric that you have a baseline metric on. So like you already know where that number is, and then they have to move the needle on that number. Okay. Now you can either set this target for them, or the better thing to do, especially if you do this early on, is share the metrics with them and allow them to set the target. And again, if they like set some baby target, obviously that's going to be unacceptable. They say I'm going to improve by 1%. You say try again. But usually what most people will do is they'll set a target that in some cases will exceed what you would have said. Like they'll say, okay, hey, we can move this by 20%.
Great.
Okay, great. And because you want to tie it to an actual result, an actual deliverable, not like, oh, we're working on the strategy for this.
Yes.
These people are like paid ads. Whatever you put at them, right? Like on Facebook, they will consume.
Yeah.
Right? As you continue to feed them, with paychecks, they will consume those paychecks. They will keep showing up and keep blending in with the furniture. That is how that behavior is going to be reinforced. And they will continue to come up with more and more creative ways to create the illusion of work being done all the way until you run out of money and the firm shuts down and you can no longer pay them. This parasite will go to the next organization where they'll do the same thing. But that is assuming that this person is not the real deal.
Right.
Okay. On the alternative, let's say they are the real deal, and have you actually defined clear standards and expectations? Because the right people, when you're setting accountability and you're defining metrics and things like that, sometimes they'll come to you and they'll map it out already. They get excited by it. They get excited at the opportunity to, because from their perspective, maybe they don't know like, okay, can I really jump in and start really taking action within the organization? because if they're telling you things like, yeah, I'm going to spend 3 months building relationships, you should say, oh, hell no. Right? Like, yeah, I want you to get to know everyone, but 3 months of building relationships, right? Let's say you pay them, I don't know, let's say for easy math, 120 grand a year, 10 grand a month, you just spent 30 grand building relationships. Ouch, right? Like, we need to see something, right?
Yes.
If you are holding them accountable people like to be held accountable. That's the type of culture that they thrive in. So I think the best thing you can do is to set some clear metrics. And if they're telling you, hey, we're making a lot of progress on this, you say, hey, show me what you guys have been doing. Right. So, and I'll give even an example of this. We've been working this year on a kind of a business intelligence project in terms of just upgrading. I mean, we've been using Salesforce and we have dashboards, but I mean, truly taking it to BI with like platforms like Domo, where you can really pull in all these different systems and platforms and draw connections between them, right? So not just strictly based on what's in a CRM, but like all the platforms which you're using, and to be able to really extract greater data and insights.
Right.
And this is a project that's taken some time because you obviously want to make sure that there's quality data hygiene and all the integrations are set up properly. And then there's training, and then there's onboarding and setting processes behind like data management, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I get updates on this stuff and I get to see the dashboards and I get to actually see the use cases. And then we obviously have them on the screens in our office, but it's like you get to see this progress, because the worst thing would be if like you put somebody, to work on a project like this and they tell you, okay, it's going to take 6 months and you don't get the first update until 6 months. They tell you, it's going to take more time, but that's on you.
Yeah.
If they're telling you you're making progress, you say, okay, well, show it to me. Let's sit down, show me the progress that you're making. You're going to be able to tell right away if they're actually making progress, because if they're scrambling and if they're fumbling on a project that they've been working on, they're like, oh, I don't know what the documents are. I don't know if I'm ready, or I don't, any of that stuff, they don't have anything to show you, then you can have a very stern conversation that says, great, we're going to try again tomorrow. And I really like for you to have something to show me, because you're shining a light on them. And when you do that, here's the thing, I'm just going to prepare you for this. When you shine a light on the charlatan and one of these passengers, if there's really nothing there, if there's nothing that they've been doing, and then you just see they've been bullshitting you this whole time, they will transform on you, and you're going to see this Dr. Jekyll Hyde type situation where you are the problem. And all the excuses are going to come out. You didn't set me up for success. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm trying really hard. This is more difficult than I thought it would be. Basically, things have changed. Like, you're going to hear everything. It's going to be your fault, right? Because they're going to deflect on you. Don't give in. Don't give in and start believing this nonsense, right? Just realize that when you do that and they start squirming, that you are shining a light on something that isn't there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to give, like you said, not wait until month 6, but someone should always know where they stand. And that's one thing we have here of, the worst part of anything is terminating someone, but no one should ever be surprised. So it shouldn't be like, oh, wait until month 6. Oh, great, that didn't work out.
Yeah. With any leader, you got to have like transparent and honest conversations all the time. I mean, that's the culture we have here. And if we're sitting down, if like there's something that needs to be said, it's said. If everybody should always know where they stand.
Yes.
Because we have metrics and because we have data, and every single leader has, metrics and KPIs that they are accountable for. Metrics are objective.
Yeah.
Okay. And when someone sits down, like, we know if they're on track or off track.
Yeah.
You don't need a meeting to find out.
No.
I know it every single day because we've got a daily dash. There's nowhere to hide. That's the best part about accountability. But if you don't have it, then there's plenty of places to hide. The problem with not having accountability is you inadvertently, like, I don't think most human beings like accountability. I mean, most human beings would prefer probably be in a place with no accountability, where they can do whatever the hell they want, collect a paycheck, and have an easy life. But that obviously, as we've mentioned on this episode, doesn't really work for a business.
No.
So you just got to decide if you're going to be a nonprofit or a for-profit.
There you go. We'll see you on the next AMMA.
All right. See you.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.